Hello and welcome to this week's Wolves Fancast. Richard Hobbs here. We're recording about half an hour after the end of the 1-1 draw Wolves had against Southampton. Lots to talk about for the game, most notably for the first time under Nuno, Wolves started with a back four. Joining me this evening, we've got Hoops.
Hello.
We've got Dan.
Hello.
We've got Stuart Mancien.
Hello, everyone.
Mancien is a stuffed dog with a wolf
It's not a dog.
hat on it.
It's not
Isn't
a
it
dog.
Oh, apologies.
It's a meerkat.
It's a meerkat. I'm terribly sorry. And we've got Kim who's come back to join us again.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Shall we get right into the game, folks? So there've been sort of a few rumours in the build-up to the game that a Wolves player had sort of been tested positive for COVID. Of course, we knew that Coady had been self-isolating the last couple of weeks anyway. And then team news came out and had Wolves lining up with the standard formation, 3-4-3, with Dendoncker in the middle. No Sace playing, and it being confirmed that although Coady's self-isolation had finished because he hadn't been training with the team, he'd essentially been sort of dropped from it. I guess what was everyone's kind of initial reaction to to sort of seeing the lineup, and then what was your reaction to, I guess, 30 seconds into the game when it turned out Wolves weren't playing a back three without Coady, but we'd essentially completely torn up the script and gone for a 4-3-3 with Bolly and Kilman at the back. I'll go to Stu first.
Shock and awe that it actually happened. It was like when Coady played for England in a back four for the last 20 minutes of that one game. And it was like, oh, this can't happen. This is not possible. And the fact that Jordan then automatically means in the group chat that he has to now go a date with Kelly Brook because it's happened. So that's one step further. I just thought, well, it's something different. It's not going to be boring today. And then it carried on, and it was.
I was going to say the most notable thing about it was I didn't feel actually a lot changed. Sort of, Dan, how did you sort of feel it kind of, I guess, sort of transpire?
I feel like we were all a bit sort of taken aback that Nuno actually had a bit of desire to change things and just see how things would go with a back four. I thought the two centre-backs looked a bit shaky without Coady leading them all over the pitch and giving them instructions. But I was quite pleased to see Nuno go for it. And, you know, if it didn't come off, then we know it wouldn't work. But I feel like after watching that tonight, I feel we could go to a back four on a regular basis with a bit more fine-tuning and a bit more bedding in of that system.
Yeah, Kim, I know, sort of, I saw your tweet about sort of having to have some gin after sort of seeing the lineup, and I think, and sort of seeing how we'd sort of work without Coady. How did you think it worked as almost a back four with Neves sort of sitting in front? Because I almost kind of assumed, like, just looking at the lineup, it would be Dendoncker almost as a proper anchor in midfield, but it was almost like how Wolves normally play. But
yeah, I think, to be honest, I didn't even notice because I wasn't even looking for the fact that, you know, I thought it's obvious that Dendoncker is going to be playing in a back five. Like, I was completely shocked, to be honest. I think it was clear that I think the centre backs looked a bit shaky. Bolly and Kilman, I think, almost in their personas, they just looked on edge. Whereas, you know, usually you've got Coady shouting at everyone, make sure everyone's organised, where I didn't feel like that was the case tonight. No. And personally, I still don't think it helped our tempo. I still think in the first half, despite creating a few chances, I still don't think we looked any better moving from a back four to a back five in terms of, you know, attacking wise. I don't think it helped. I think as soon as they sort of scored, that's when we sort of jumped into life and started attacking again. To be honest, I think that's what turned the game, that we actually started looking forward. Moutinho was making runs in the box and this wasn't happening before. So I don't think formation played a whole bearing on the game, apart from the fact that it makes us look more nervy at the back.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head almost. We just felt a bit. They felt exposed, and there was. I think Walcott had that big chance at 1-0, and just Kilman was sort of playing everyone sort of 5 yards onside, but normally that would have been Coady, who'd have been almost 5 yards further beyond that and have just sort of swept up. And it did feel like they were playing without a safety net for the first time. They looked a bit anxious hoops. I guess it was weird because we started the game all right. Podence sort of had that great little run inside the first sort of couple of minutes, and one sort of a free kick on the edge of the box. And I think I was optimistic that this might be a brave new world, but it then just for the they just struggled to get going, and it was odd because as Kim said, like it was almost like we were playing how we were a couple of weeks ago, with still kind of quite pedestrian pace, still a bit unsure of who we are, and of playing with each other, and it just didn't really make a difference, particularly almost hugely negatively or hugely positively either, which I think is quite telling in a way.
Yeah, I think as Kim and both Dan referenced, I think as we set out as a 4, then there was probably a little bit of optimism that it would perhaps turn into more of an expansive performance. And as you say, although we started well, bar the last 25 minutes where the formation slightly changed, we just looked more weaker for the change. And I think there was far too much space between the two centre halves. They weren't really playing as a unit, and it did look shaky. But my other thoughts going into it was, I know there's been a lot of talk about Adama this week starting as it has happened this evening, but I was just surprised Neto wasn't starting and disappointed as well. We could all talk about hindsight and we'll go into the game and him getting a goal, but I just that disappointed me. For as much as Podence started well, I think it was a shame. That was the only other surprise was Neto not starting tonight.
Yeah, no, I completely see that, and from my perspective of that, and sort of I've talking what I wanted to kind of discuss with you guys was almost that front line. I mean, Jimenez he's not playing at all well at the moment, and apart from a couple of off chances, and he hit the post as well for a goal, and suddenly things switched. But he looked lost, he looked isolated. There was that the ball came in from a free kick, and he couldn't trap it down at all. But it feels to me that between Neto, Traore, and Podence, you've got between them sort of two really good wide players, but none of them can do it on a consistent basis. So Neto did really well when he came off the bench. He took his goal well. He had a couple of really good other chances. But then, if he starts against Arsenal, there's a really high likelihood we'll be in exactly the same situation. If he's starting over Podence, the Podence would then come on in the 65th minute and really shine from there. And it almost feels like neither one of them, I think they're both really good players, but they don't just have that extra bit to really push us forward on a consistent basis, which is why I don't think he necessarily started.
I just think with them, yeah, I think you can't really, looking at that first half, Podence probably did as much as anyone, even though he was being a bit feeble and falling over at times. He had no service, and they were having to drop so deep to get the ball back when we had an extra man in midfield compared to what we normally have, and we had an extra man up front compared to what we normally have. None of it made any sense. It was you look at it was the old way of I'll get the ball to Traore and hope he does something special for the first 35, 40 minutes again, and it was you think, well, we are going to be more expansive playing with 4 at the back. There's going to be risks in defence. You kind of expect that as soon as you saw 4 at the back, which you kind of accept. But what you can't accept is having players on the pitch like them 3 up front. And I don't blame Jimenez for being pissed off whatsoever, because what service did he have? He had to create anything that he did for himself. And then when the ball did fall to him, he wasn't fully switched on. So it's one of them.
I mean, sort of, it seemed like the first half almost passed by a little bit, and both goalies were having to make some sort of good saves, but relatively routine. And to be honest, commentators I heard were sort of Southampton are playing sort of slightly better, but it didn't seem much in it. And then second half came, and usually they start the second half strongly, but just really struggled. And I think for Southampton's goal, it was a bit of a breakdown in sort of about 3 or 4 different departments. It didn't help that I tweeted about my love and appreciation for Dendoncker, who then sort of managed to consistently lose 3 headers in a row in the middle of the park. And then Nori went down after sort of a bit of a collision, and whether it was a foul or not, there was nothing in it. And I've got sort of a bit of a thing for if he's going to try and claim for a foul, fair enough. Defenders or all players will do it, won't they? But if you're then not going to win it and you're just lying on the floor and hoping the referee stops play, then you can't put your own team at risk. And it for the ball to sort of literally come to where he should have been, Kilman not quite handling it, and then Semedo, absolutely nowhere near where he should have been. I'm going to go to Dan just because I enjoy this part. But so, Dan, how do you feel that, I guess, sort of a goal as a whole, but also Semedo? Because, I thought that was really sort of poor not to sort of be switched on to that personally and keep the line, so to speak.
I mean, that just shows why Barcelona let him go, doesn't it? That complete lack of reaction and awareness to what was going on. Like what he said, he shouldn't have even got to that position. There was various opportunities to get rid of that ball before he even got anywhere near our box. Kilman can't be letting that cross get in from that area. But I'm sorry, I'm quite happy with tonight's performance. I'm a bit deflated that we haven't got the win, but overall, I'm still quite happy with the performance. 7 shots, 2 on target. That's not Wolves, that's Southampton. We had 20 shots today. 20 shots, 9 on target. What more do Wolves fans want than that? And there was always going to be the situation if we went to a back 4 that we were going to leave ourselves open.
How many of them shots are actual proper nailed chances? Like Rich said earlier, that's the point.
What's the XG, Dan? What's the XG?
Yeah, you can have as many shots as you want. I mean, they were counting blocks from about 40 yards as shots on target. It means fuck all.
Stu, we've barely been getting toward the fucking opposition half the last few games.
You had the Neto one, the Neto that McCarthy saved with his feet.
Podence, header, Dendoncker chance.
Yeah, all
Raul's hit the post. Neto scored. They're all decent chances.
But the goal was the goal's the only one that you'd say is an XG of 1. Because they're all, like we've already said, they're all routine saves. I agree. It's better that they're actually on target for a change and not skied over the bar, which is progress.
Apart from the Neves chance, what Schmeichel said against Leicester, what did we do in their half?
Nothing at all.
So we've had 20 shots today.
Yeah, it's an improvement, but again, it's you can have them chances. You can have them shots against even that waste of space down at Sheffield United, and even he'd save all them.
I think especially in the first half, like they were literally like, if he didn't save them, he'd want to shoot it in because they were literally at him. Like,
if you want to be extra picky, you're going to say, well, we had actually really good chances, and they've made the keeper. You should make the keeper work harder than that.
And it wasn't a result of a change in tempo, or it didn't feel as if it was a constant attack. There were just pot shots, weren't they, ultimately, where we run out of ideas in terms of clear-cut chances. So it was a few in and around the box, which, as you say, you'd expect him to say. I mean, I've got a couple of messages here coming through saying, take a point, wasn't too bad. But to me, it was at times it was a really, really tough watch. I just thought it was sluggish. It was, we know what the players are capable of, and we can give Southampton a bit of credit, but I thought it was tough going. You can use stats as context and go 20 shots, but, if you look at the game overall, I'm not particularly happy with that performance.
If that was any other team and you were just watching that as a neutral, you'd have put it onto ITV1, wouldn't you? and watch Celeb instead, because it wasn't a spectacle of football at all.
But then if you listen to Jamie Carragher after the game, he said it was a great watch in the second half. So, which I kind of agree with. But when they scored, we thought, God, we're going to have to actually attack now. Whereas it's too laboured, and we always start attacking once we're losing rather than actually going for it before.
We waste an hour of every game for no reason at all, just pissing about. It showed when we've gone out the blocks at teams, Sheffield United, Palace, and we've come away with wins, and we've done the job, got the job done. Then kind of calm it down a bit afterwards. And like you said earlier, Richard, we started relatively brightly, but it just faded away straight away.
Faded within about 5 to 10 minutes. I kind of noted, and we conceded, and we were on the ropes for a bit. As said, that Walcott second chance was a huge turning point. And don't get me wrong, Walcott should be burying them, and the fact it was almost like his career in a microcosm, wasn't it? At an elite level, being a striker. But after that, I thought Martinho sort of stepped up, which, he's had his critics, particularly from myself, to be honest, and, in terms of how he's been playing, and he's almost sort of, pushed out the team now because of Donk and what he offers, and Neves being who he is. But, we were crying out for that midfielder to push further forward. We've got Donk who can, sort of roam about. Neves sits quite deeply, but we needed someone who can, link up the midfield with the attack. And, for the first 60 minutes, we had 3 midfielders who were trying to link the defence with the midfield. And it just doesn't fit. So when he was playing that bit further forward and he had that almost free, bit more free reign, that's when things started to happen, whether it was through Podence or through Traore or even Neto when he came on. I think he was kind of a real linchpin to that kind of working out. And, they started pushing. And, again, I criticised Jimenez because actually I thought he did struggle. And then he does almost the classic Jimenez sort of, he takes the shot on the turn quickly, incisively, what he's paid to do, hits the post, and it's exact, that goal from Neto screamed to me a guy who just knows where he needs to be at the right time. It's, it's proper kind of textbook what you want from your attackers, isn't it?
It's the way he celebrated it, he didn't.
That was offside.
I was waiting for VAR to come into effect. The way he just didn't celebrate whatsoever.
Yeah, I didn't celebrate whatsoever until you saw the replay of that. It was nowhere near offside, because I thought, he's been stung too many times by VAR. It's affected his mind now. But it's the angle, I suppose, of what we were showing, and we didn't expect him to run in. But yeah, that's what I didn't celebrate. It's celebrated when you see a replay of the offside line.
Yeah,
I do feel like Neto has much more of an end product than Podence currently, and that's why personally I would have started with Neto and Traore, because Traore gives you that, something different. But I feel like Neto does as well. He can come up with an assist out of nothing, and I don't feel like he's about to fluff a chance. Whereas Podence sometimes feel like he's a bit lightweight. And if he has an off game, he just doesn't look like he's ever gonna do anything.
I like seeing Neto on the left more than I do seeing him on the right. When Podence starts, we usually have him inverted, so Podence on the left and Neto on the right. And I know, we seem to get a bit more out of Neto when he's on that left, almost tucked a little bit inside as another striker in a way. And again, same with Traore. Traore's best moments weren't when he was hugging the touchline. That's not when you get the best out of Traore. It's when he's playing 5 yards in field and he's got, much more of a pitch where he can go left and right and just let his mental footballing brain take over. If he's just down the sidelines, all he does is run to a channel and then try and hook in across, which will work 1 in 50 times. And there's a few points today where, it was almost doing the classic Traore and he knocked himself into a bit of space, but the forward players weren't quite there to be in the right position. And then even when they were slightly there, the cross was just wayward.
You look at compare it to the Traore performance against West Ham last season when he pinged the ball across for Jimenez on a sixpence, and it absolutely perfect. You look in today with the crosses he put in, and it was like his first season with us again. It's almost like his confidence and that shoulder injury knackered him out so much that when he does play that role, his crossing's been woeful.
He didn't do anything today to warrant a start, but
No.
I think it is about balance with those three, and I think Podence and Neto, as can reference there, they're quite similar, so you can't really play on both. So you've got to make a call, and I think right now Neto's in there on form because he's looking most likely to, but then again, it's a difficult one to retain Adama tonight because it just didn't work for him.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because I feel like I'm going to give out a stat now, and it could be completely wrong, which isn't like me, of course. It was Traore's 100th appearance for Wolves.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yes, getting better. And you're looking at it. It's a large amount. It's a long time to actually be at a club these days, and you always go, what's he got to show for it? And there's these sort of series of moments and things like that, but I don't know, just there's always going to be this enigmatic thing around Traore, isn't there, where we're still trying to see if we can get the best out of him, and you can see why clubs always want to take him on, but you can always see why clubs eventually end up letting him go.
I mean, we talked about this in the week, didn't we, about the fact that Traore seems to be or has a level of expectations far above anybody else that sometimes people expect too much of him, but is a backhanded compliment because of what he has got, and what he has got is more in his locker, in terms of strength and speed and goal than any of our other front line. But it's that consistency, and it's just always going to be labelled at him.
I think it's a bit unfair, really, to sort of give him one game and then, because he hasn't been quite on it today, he's back on the bench again. Well, he's never ever gonna, get up to that form where Man City away. He's never gonna get up to that form unless he gets a run of games. So personally, I would give him a couple more games, and I really do think he'll come good again. But he's very much a confidence player. So I think it'd be unfair to just give him one game and then put him back on the bench.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of the same sort of mindset, Kim, and that's why I prefer when he starts games as opposed to when he comes off the bench, because he seems like it can take him a bit of a while to either pick up the pace of a game anyway, or pick up a pace over a series of games. It feels like, but did anyone kind of stand out for you guys watching? I thought Kilman looked okay, apart from being a bit shaky a couple of times. And one thing I found interesting, it's completely meaningless, appreciate it, but of course Neves was captain today, and he went off quite early on. He was sort of sacrificed for another forward player. To see Bolly then get the captaincy, and I asked again, it doesn't matter. It is literally a bit of cloth around the bicep. But I was surprised Martino wasn't captain. Sort of third choice.
Would he really want to be kept? Martino does seem to be the type, though, for me. I mean, I know he's the most experienced player on the pitch, and that's the kind of thing that some clubs do.
I'm
but
90% sure he was captain for Portugal last week at some point.
Yeah, well, he's a legend for Portugal, ain't he?
Are you saying he's not a legend for Wolves?
Well, not for the last 12 months. No, I thought actually,
I think
when Bolly took the captain's armband, you actually heard him talking. And I've never heard that before, ever.
Yeah. As I say, he was talking throughout a lot of the game, to be fair to him.
He's a starter, though, isn't he? Bolly's a starter, whereas Martino, isn't a guaranteed starter, whereas Bolly, he doesn't miss games. So he's kind of, he's the go-to guy there. But in terms of who stood out, Rich, I mean, I don't know if the other guys want to pick anyone up, but they were just in patches, weren't they? I mean, Semedo had a good first half, but let himself down on the goal. Kilman, as you say, made a couple of decent interceptions, but so I don't know. I don't think anybody had a consistently good game. There were just glimpses.
I was going to say it's almost a bang average one draw, isn't it? If like no one had an absolute stinker. No one had like a 4 out of 10, but no one got like above a 7.
I mean, like Hoop said, Semedo had the first half and Neto had the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's your standout performances of the whole match.
And Matinho maybe had the intervening period, maybe.
He probably played as far forward as he does for Portugal today, to be fair to him. There was times when he crossed the ball into the box.
Well, I mean, when Dan, you're shaking your head. Let's see your thoughts.
Massively deflated with some of the things that I'm hearing currently. I mean, going back to the captaincy, a minute ago, I can only speak for myself here. But when you're an elite player, you don't need to wear a captain's armband for one. The other thing with Matinho, I didn't think he had a good game. That first half little period where when he got to the byline and tried to put that crossing with his left foot. God rest her soul, my mum could have put in a cross similar to that. It was disgraceful, the amount of power in that cross. That's where we struggled tonight, was the centre of midfield with 3 defensive midfielders who haven't got enough energy to be effective in the final third.
We called it before the game, David, when we thought when it was going to be Neves and Matinho again. I said that, well, there's nothing in the middle. And then you had Dendoncker, who was kind of pretty anonymous.
I said to him before we came on, Dendoncker constantly gets himself in good positions, but he hasn't got that attacking nous.
No,
I don't think any of them have, though. I don't think between them in midfield we haven't got enough assists and goals, and that's where we struggle because we're always relying on Jimenez or if not the wide players. Like between them, they don't create anything. They don't shoot and score. They literally just.
They're just there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like I summed it up quite nicely when I said we have 3 midfielders who are all primary defenses and enjoy linking up defence to the midfield or wide players. We have no one in a midfield who actually wants to link players going forward.
And he came on for 6 minutes at the end, and has another chance.
I was going to say he's the only one, as we understand it, because anybody can claim to be an expert on the guy, but Vitinha appears to be brought on to be that driving player and to be that one who will take players on. Because I agree, I like them all individually, particularly Dong, but I just think it's confusing. It's what's the message you're sending out in that centre midfield. And often nobody knows who's going to hold and who's going to go. And it's kind of like, individually they're good players. But yeah, I don't get that sort of pairing or threesome in the middle.
I think that's it. And, I've probably been relatively critical of Jimenez today. And by far the best striker I've seen at Wolves, in terms of sort of even like level for, player, parallel to the level we're at. But, imagine if he just had a willing runner, like within a postcode of him, let's be honest. But, if you had someone like, I was going to say, it sounds stupid, but even someone like Ward Prowse or, a classic like Frank Lampard, do you know what I mean? Just someone who will go that extra 5 yards further forward and just pick up a layoff.
Stuart Armstrong was the guy for them today. That was a constant thorn in our side. It was a constant nuisance. I said today on Twitter, there isn't a player in the Southampton squad that walks into our side. And for me, I'll pick Stuart Armstrong up and walk him in instead of João because I thought he's the nuisance that we need in our centre midfield.
That's it. It's a nuisance player. That's what we're missing in the midfield. Just somebody who can just make themselves busy, but that bit further forward. And, he just picks up these awkward positions for defenders, and it's just that little link we're missing. And, as Dan would say, Nuno he needs to take the handbrake off in that regards and either let Matinho just have a swan song playing as number 10, which isn't going to happen, or Dendoncker's not going to do it because he's basically a centre half. And I don't see it being Neves either. So he needs to because there is a clear almost gap in the pitch, isn't there? I'll be fascinated to see a heat map because I bet, the distance between Jimenez and the midfielders is further than any other players on the football pitch.
When we've talked about it before about playing either Neto or Podence there as a kind of as an attacking midfielder of some. I mean, we've mentioned him before, but Ross Barkley would have been ideal. I mean, he's exactly who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Them not have got him for a year.
It's not like these players don't exist. And whenever we have these kind of conversations about
Dad, sorry.
Is that the Ross Barkley that's injured again?
I didn't say anything about his injury record, did I, Daniel?
Yes, honestly, I'm still deflated that none of you think Paul's had a good game tonight. Absolutely.
No, he did.
Mind blown.
I said that.
He said he's had a shit game. He did okay, but I think it was more over the fact that we thought Neto was probably, worthy of a start over him.
Because he scored?
No, because he's better.
Just generally.
Podence had a good 10 minutes in that first half, and he spent the rest of the time moaning and just you can see frustration all over the pitch, which is kind of it's telling that it shows that they care, which obviously they do because that's been the whole thing under Nuno for the last 3.5 years. But you can see frustration
on another night.
Powders
could have had a hat trick tonight.
But on another night, anything could happen. On another night, that's
Yeah, but so what did Jimenez do tonight on another night?
Go and assist. Simple. There you go.
I think that's the difference, though, because Jimenez can play really awfully like he did tonight, but he still picked up the assist. You still would never take him off in a game because, he gets a big chance. I personally would back him to score over anyone else, which obviously is a centre forward. Whereas I think that Podence can have a half-decent game like he did tonight, but miss chance after chance.
Yeah, exactly like... Exactly like what is that noise? exactly like what
is that Mancienne?
Yeah, Mancienne's gone mad. The ghost of Glenn Hoddle's got to him. But yeah, it's exactly what we criticised Jota for last season when he was missing chance after chance. And now, fair play to him, it's come good at Liverpool because he's getting more chances anyway. But Podence is the same level of frustration because he gets himself into positions. But you never have the confidence that he's going to put the ball in the net. Whereas Neto at the minute, personally, I do.
I think Podence, when he first came in, was in great form and he felt like anything he touched, but he just seems a little bit off at the moment.
I think for me, I really like Podence, and I think he's very incisive and direct when he plays, and he likes getting the ball on behalf of them and taking players on, which, if we're actually there in a crowd, it would properly lift the team up and the fans up. But as I said, it almost feels like he's not quite that complete player to be able to do it on a consistent basis. But I also have I sound very negative, but I also have the same reservation about Neto. So I could see Neto starting against Arsenal or whoever we've got after that struggle, not make an impact because he's at that level, but then Podence coming on and making an impact and getting that goal because the defence have opened up, etc. And I guess part of it is just that's because of the kind of calibre of team we are at the moment, but we are essentially a good mid-table Premier League team, but we're always, we've got these players who aren't quite there.
I agree with what Kim said, where Adama deserves a good run of games, but on tonight's performance, I don't see how you can drop Podence, and I think you've got to bring Neto in.
I agree.
Yeah, I think Kim was saying that you can't expect Adama to play well when he doesn't have a run of games. I think that was the main point. But it's a tricky one because, like we've all said, that they all play well in patches. Yeah. But I was astonished that Neto was on the bench because he's been our best player this season, let alone the last few weeks. And you have to, for that reason, you have to start him. Yeah, if he's not performing, then take him off. But I think we have got to remember how young these people are comparatively to every other team. I think they said it in commentary about the bench and how young the bench was, other than Otasewi, 18, Fabio Silva, 18, and Vitinha, was he 19, 20, something like that?
20.
And it's they are gonna make mistakes, but let them make mistakes on their own and not force them into systems that don't exploit their best traits. It's just that's my biggest bugbear of tonight that we've already mentioned.
I must say, before we'll round up on this in a second, but this almost reminds me of the days under Jacket and under managers gone by, where say we have a 1-1 draw, and we almost can't decide whether it's 1 point gained or 2 points lost, whether we played good or whether we played bad, because it's just an inconsistent game, and unfortunately, that's the difference between, I guess, Wolves finishing 7th and Wolves finishing 11th or 12th, which is, the way we're going at the moment, because we'll draw games like this when on another day we could have won quite handedly if we needed to.
Well, if we get top half, it'll be a great season. No doubt about it. We ain't getting nowhere near the top 8, let alone top 6. Let's just
But to be fair, we should mention the fact that Southampton are a good team.
Yeah.
They've won last 5 out of 6. They've unbeaten the last 3 games away from home. So I feel like, even though it's just frustrating, because I feel like we could have attacked more in the first half and it could have been a different game and blah, 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 blah. But the point is that Southampton are a good team. So obviously I've seen them play better than tonight, but I think that we should step back and think about, before the game, I'd have probably took a 1-1 and done, really.
I don't think it's a terrible result. You say so. I think I bet the most likely result would have been a draw, because they're in good form. Wolves are a good team. It almost feels like 1-1's probably a natural conclusion, but I guess it's just frustrating in a way, isn't it? Because, as I said before, we can all see the potential in these players. We can see the potential in this team, but they're being held back, whether it's internally by themselves or externally by how they're being coached and how they're being told to play.
I'm being ridiculed on a daily basis for demanding more from this team, and then people are happy with a 1-1 draw at home. I'm all over the shop here. I don't know what I'm supposed to expect from this team anymore.
Expect the least amount possible.
How many years do we need to be an established Premier League side to demand more from this team, and then still be happy with a 1-1 draw at home to Southampton, who are, come the end of the season, going to finish below us?
I'm not happy at all. We should be beating teams like this.
These 2 games were big markers for our season, indicators for me. And we've already dropped 2 points, so now we've got to go and beat Arsenal. Otherwise, we ain't beating table finish.
We'll come on to that later. We ain't beating Arsenal. Absolutely no chance. I mean, they were absolutely wank at the weekend, and you know exactly what's going to happen. It'll be the same again.
They haven't scored an open play goal since flipping Vieira played for them. They're going to score 3 on Saturday. You can see it coming, can't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I said when we were talking about when the teams came out, I said I don't even know what to think anymore, because I don't expect anything.
Well, we had 20 shots though, apparently.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
20 shots.
We ain't had 20 shots in the last 7 games.
I was going to say, it's weird, because I think that Dan's kind of viewpoint is kind of Wolves in a nutshell at the moment. It's like, it's an improved performance, but we didn't get 3 points. And as I say, there's some glaringly poor things about the game today, but there's also some positives as well. And it's going to be. It's like we're back to being mid-table, where we're going to have these inconsistencies. But you know what? I'm happy, because it's going to make great content for us.
I don't think we're miles off the top 8, as Stu's alluded to. I really don't. I don't think we were great. I think it was really patchy. But as Rich referenced as well, we know what they're capable of, and it could be due to the failings of teams around us. But top 8 isn't that big of an achievement this year with the standard we're seeing, to be honest. So.
I mean, I think that's a damning thing, that even though you look where Man City are and in the league, and I still don't expect us to be up there, because it's. I mean, he said all along it's a transition into a new style, which we've yet to even sniff, let alone anything else. So I very little expectation for this season anyway, regardless. But with things like performances like this and this first half voodoo, which is now become kind of law rather than anything else, I don't expect anything apart from top 10.
Well, shall we leave it for Southampton chat for there, guys? And we'll be talking about the Arsenal game right after this. So on Sunday, Wolves will be playing Arsenal away. I mean, it doesn't really matter at the moment because we're still not getting fans in the stadiums, but fingers crossed there might actually be some movement there, which I will ask you guys about in a little bit. 7:15 kickoff, I say on Sunday. I mean, we won't talk about the game sort of too much because there's a lot of time between now and Sunday, and be interested to sort of see what Wolves players will actually be available. But I think my big question to you guys is, do you think we will be playing 4 at the back against Arsenal? I will go to, looks like they might have an answer. I'll go to Dan first.
No, I think Coady comes back in, doesn't he? He's captain Leeds.
You don't think he's put his transfer request in to go to Liverpool then?
No, he has. Yeah, he'll come out after the Arsenal game.
After the post-Arsenal. This will be his farewell game.
It's classic Nuno to go back to be honest, drop Kilman and put Coady in the back 4. Let's get some bollocks, Nuno, and properly go for it for once.
You know what? That was a thought. That was sort of a thought I had during the game, not about what Nuno may or may not need, but actually, it wasn't a complete disaster tonight playing 4 at the back. I think we can all kind of agree on that. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't like. Do you remember when like Man City Pep, Guardiola's tried it in the Champions League before, and he's like, just played around in the semi-final of like the biggest game of his season. It wasn't like that. We weren't awful. There was a few issues, but I did sort of think, could Coady play in the back 4 at this point? And he had an hour against Denmark or whatever it was, but I could be swayed. I think, especially if we had a attacking lineup of Traore, Podence, Neto, all behind Traore. I could get on board with that quite easily. Or am I just thinking that's very sort of FIFA Football Manager? And it's all sort of fictional.
I mean, I'd have no problem with it, but we know that midfield will be exactly the same as it was today, so it's pointless. So you might as well just go back to back 5 and at least have that outlet of the ball out to the wing backs. Because if you're playing Neves, Matinho, and Dendoncker again, then it completely defeats the object because it's the same as having a back 5 anyway, just further up the pitch.
I don't think it matters what formation we play, as you say, Stu, because of the 3 in midfield. I think, to be fair, if we're going to play a 4 against anyone, well, Arsenal haven't looked great going forward, have they? In the last few games at all. Barely scored a goal. Looked really poor against Leeds. Didn't offer anything going forward. So I think potentially, but I would feel more comfortable going back to what we know. But at the same time, getting Matinho further forward, or at least understanding who's doing what in the centre midfield. Because at the moment, I don't know who's holding, who's going forward, who's the creative player. It's just not working. So but for me, go back to back 5, and at least the fullbacks will then hopefully bomb on a little bit more.
I mean, we also when Neves played further forward against Everton last season, how good he can be further up the pitch, and
he's never has a player,
and he never has a chance to do it for whatever reason because he's held back and made to play defensively.
Well, I was going to say in the first 10 minutes of the Southampton game, part of me did think, we talk about, can, Matinho and Neves can't really play together. There was a point where, Neves, I tuned in about 30 seconds into the game and sort of missed sort of the initial sort of back 4 and saw Neves quite deep. And I think, he pinged one out wide and I thought, is it a case that almost Coady and Neves can't quite play together to get the best out of Neves because they're almost doing each other's jobs?
When Neves is that deep, then because they're just on top of each other.
Yeah,
that's why I think that in that game when it stands out as the only one that I can think of because it worked so well with him playing further forward and Dendoncker holding.
Yeah.
I mean, it helped that Everton was shit that day, but even so, you can only play what's in front of you, and it's proved that it can work. So I don't see why we can't do that, especially like Kim said about how bad Arsenal have been. And you have got the wing backs, and if Neves is further forward, then you got added threat there as well. So ideally, I'd love to go to Arsenal and take it to them and actually beat them at their place. It's never happened, and it'd be ironic that it'd be the first time when when we're not there that it actually happens. But I can't see.
Sort of where do you sort of sit on this then?
Yeah, I don't know. I can see arguments for either, but I think the reality of the situation is we'll play to Coady's strengths, and that will mean a back five. And I think that's sort of the the proven system. But yeah, I'd take the points on board that actually it's more about what happens in front and the selection in midfield. That is more pivotal, and it does give more license to the wing backs going forward, and they didn't go forward too much today, did they? I think within that four, because they were probably more conscious of their defensive abilities. So yeah, I think he'll go with 5, and I'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I say we've got a bit of time to between now and Sunday. We've got 6 days, and so we'll see if Coady comes back in and things like that, and hopefully Nuno, evaluates the game today and the quite big drawbacks on the performance, and sort of see if we can get something, because as I said, we all know how much potential this Wolves team's got. But it feels like it's been a bit of a not a negative show, because as I say, so it's just we've got a lot of different sort of ideas going on at the moment. But shall we sort of move things to a bit more happy with the quiz?
It's not happy for me, but yeah.
This is where we go. Yeah. Let's be happy, because it's 11 o'clock at night, and this is what we all need to be really switched on, engaged. So I will pass over to Dan the man, i.e. the quiz master general, to do the quiz.
What's the point?
This is why we have production meetings.
I really am. Sometimes I just wonder why I bother anymore.
Is that because we don't?
Happy place.
I've literally, is this the first ever episode that I've been the majority positive source of the episode?
You don't know where to place yourself, do you? That's the thing.
I just don't. I don't know who I am anymore. You lot just need to appreciate how far we've come in 3 years.
I was going to say, I remember when we were playing Crawley, and
Yeah, it's not the same when we're not in the stadiums. Don't count.
Right. First question is this week is to you, Richard Hobbs.
Okay, I can't read it.
6 years ago this week, Wolves lost 3-0 at home to Nottingham Forest. Who partnered Danny Bart in defence that day?
It's 2014.
Correct. Great maths.
Cheers. That would have been a championship season. I know Liam McAlinden played in that game, but he obviously didn't play at the back. I'm stalling for time. Let's go for Courtney Hawes.
Any guesses from the rest of the table?
I don't think I've got it right then, have I?
I thought that was a good guess, but obviously
I would
not.
have said that, actually. Yeah, I would have said the same.
I feel like...
Did you say something, Stu?
I offer.
The correct answer was Ethan Ebanks Landell.
Oh,
The forgotten man.
I genuinely have forgotten he existed. So,
Hoops, this one to you. 5 years ago this week, Wolves drew 2-2 away to Ipswich. Benica Phobie scored, and who else scored for us that day?
Dave Edwards.
Any guesses from the rest of the table?
You don't know if he's just playing this game now, just to kind of drag out the answer.
Taco.
ooh. I will go for Leon Clark. Was he still around at that point?
Yeah, Stu.
I think Coops is right with Dave Edwards.
Correct answer was James Henry.
Oh,
Stu, I'll come to you for this one. 10 years ago this week,
2010.
Wolves beat Sunderland 3-2 at Molyneux thanks to an Ebanks Blake winner. Who scored our first that day?
Oh, Jesus. Kia?
Does anyone else want to guess?
Chrissy Malumo.
Oops.
bowling.
Hobbs.
I was going to say Foley because I remember him scoring against Sunderland when we were in the Prem, but I don't think it was that game.
Okay, the correct answer was Kevin Foley.
Oh,
Hey,
mate.
Right.
No points.
Kim to go one in front.
God.
8 years ago tomorrow, Fancast legend Bjorn Sigurdarsson scored at home to Nottingham Forest in a 2-1 defeat. What former Wolves player scored for Forest that day?
I can't even think of anyone who. I can't think of anyone who played for Forest.
Does anyone want to step
Can I
in?
just Greg Alford?
Shoot.
Is it Mancien?
Is it Hoops?
Pass. Mancien maybe might be, but not that. No.
Oh, dearie dear.
Nigel Crossley.
Adlan Guediora.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Right, quick. So, the first question, as last week, the answer is within the name of the Wolves player. The first one this week is Jackie McNamara, and the question is: every man has one of these.
What?
Here we go. Right. Jackie
Every man has
McNamara.
one of
Every
these.
man has one of these.
There is a timer.
It's not going to make the answer isn't going to make me have to put this being explicit content on the podcast, is it?
No.
Is it an anorak?
No.
No, it's not lower, is it?
Every man is one of these. I'm just looking at that picture and how baggy that shirt is. It's outrageous.
Right. The correct answer was cinema. Every man cinema.
Oh.
What?
I mean,
Wow.
It's simple.
Of course it
Doesn't
is.
make any sense.
Right. Well, does it not make sense?
What's Every Man Cinema?
You're so Benny Bridge at times.
I was
you
going
are.
to say Stu's a city world on the
Oh,
thing.
is this a chain of cinemas? I've never heard of that before.
Mailbox.
Yeah, it's one in the mailbox. Like you can bring. I was going to say you can like order relatively expensive food and
Oh, that's why I don't go there.
yeah. Stu, you would
Stu's
not
not going
fit
to
in there.
Birmingham for a day out. I forgot. Right. The next one is Colin Cameron. What West Brom need this season?
Goal scorer.
Where's the G?
I was going to say win, but again,
I
same
didn't
issue.
even look.
Yeah.
I just-
Just-
I'm just looking at Colin Cameron's eyes.
That's random Scottish team that kept tweeting us about Colin
yeah.
Cameron.
they still keep in contact.
Shipyard.
Yeah. Line.
West-
Line. Calm.
This is too hard.
Not hard.
It's not hard as a person who thought of this answer.
The correct answer was Miracle. So easy. The letters are in front of you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but I'm looking for like win.
You're adults
Oh.
with kids.
It's working on
Last
doing
one.
That means we have like the attention span of like 5 minutes at a time at this point.
Right. So the last one is Dominic Iorfa. Decent lager with a bad public image.
Osberg.
Carlin.
Decent lager with a bad public image. Oh, Corona.
Corona. Well done. Thank you for
Oh.
saving the quiz.
Amazing.
I was trying to think what Caffrey's into it.
Is Corona like classed as a lager? Corona. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a lager.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's-
I don't view it as a lager, but
Yeah, it's only if you add the lime or orange to it that you go weird.
yeah.
Now we have some questions, some Twitter corners around at the pod, guys. I say like it, you've got a choice. So, but I feel like if I ask, then it's always better. Right. Thank you for everyone who's tweeted in. We've had quite a few in, so I'll kind of just whittle through some of the ones which stand out to me. From friend of a Fancast over in the US of A, Todd DeWitt asks, if we don't finish in the top 10, is Nuno still the manager next season?
Yeah, obviously. I think I think we've said that just because we all kind of get that it's a change, it's a rebuilding season in a way. So I think keep your expectations in check, but yeah, it'd be some kind of dramatic fall from grace and finishing 17th for him not to be managing next season.
He'll be gone in March next year if you don't grow some bollocks. I'm building a narrative on Twitter if people have noticed.
No. It's subtle, Dan.
The worst case scenario that Eddie Howe's putting his face up out and about again.
I was going to say when I saw his on Monday Night Football tonight, I did think, no,
nope. Yeah. I was saying no to everything that's involved with him.
I'm sorry, I thought you went, no, he wasn't. I was like, but I saw it earlier.
I saw him and he had James Rodriguez on and he went, J-Rod. And I was like, oh, you're a twat already. You know what I mean?
I immediately thought when I saw him there,
Oh.
he's now on the media circuit. He's out for a job again, isn't he?
Yeah, of course
because it's going to get sort of firing season. It's just making sure his little face is out there again.
Because
but ironically,
he has to put his face out there because no one wants the fraud. Is the original one.
We did get it wasn't for Twitter Corner, so it is null and void for this section, but we did get a tweet earlier about why, from a Reading fan, weirdly, about why Wolves fans are so obsessed with Bournemouth, because of something we tweeted about Eddie Howe talking about Wolves. But, right, 10 seconds, Stu. Why are Wolves fans obsessed with Bournemouth? Ready?
Were you obsessed with Bournemouth, Stu, is the question.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
It's not just Wolves. If you go on the actual Twitter and look, it's all about them being media darlings and being a fairy tale when they were backed by Russians, cheated the way to the Premier League and played against the rules for 4 years.
There we go. Very nicely put. Right, back to Twitter Corner. We'll go one from that guy, Matt Guy. Which player in the dressing room is the tinfoil hat wearing, David Icke reading, Flat Earth subscriber who is telling the rest of the squad not to get the vaccine?
John Ruddy, but mainly because he's more concentrating on his leaves.
I said Ruddy was the first person who came to my mind as well, for literally no reason whatsoever.
I'd go with Adama personally. I think he's just...
Can you imagine trying to get a needle into his arm?
You're trying to prick Superman?
Yeah. I don't see how it could physically happen, especially if he's got baby all along.
Does that prevent needles going in your skin? I don't know.
Well, no, because I'm thinking if the nurse has to hold the hand, then what if her hand slips? I feel like it could be precarious for him.
It sounds like you've done this on a weekend and this is what your hair's like it is.
No, this was from going to I took my daughter to a baby class today, and it involved me dancing for an hour. So it meant she
And
had
this has not been filmed anywhere.
No, it wasn't. It was a real shame because I got really into it. Probably more than the other parents, which was probably quite telling because I don't get to do stuff. Anyway, we're moving beyond the point.
What has this
aren't we?
podcast become?
I don't know. Should we just do Dad's podcast after this? Right, a couple more from Twitter Corner. A Passy asks, can we start Neto, Poland, Adama, and Raul? Right. Apart from it's a way essentially we can feel that we can shoehorn them all in.
You can't start all 4 of them.
Unless you went with a back 4 and played one of them in front of a midfield 2 of Neves and Dendoncker, then maybe that'd work. But
Tyson Dendoncker if he's off the corona.
Possibly. You're talking chaos. I mean, Nuno wouldn't subscribe to that kind of hope, would he? So
I think the point is it won't happen, even if we wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
But we all said Nuno would never go to a back 4, and that's happened tonight.
Through circumstance. That's why.
2020.
Just get behind
we
the
don't know.
bloke. Well, what's the bloke got to do for you not to get behind him? Bloody hell, Frankie.
Right. Now, proper question now. From Alex Moore.
Proper question. Okay.
Proper question, yeah. Favorite type of jam or marmalade?
Did he turn into Paddington Bear? I don't think I've ever had marmalade in my life.
I wouldn't regularly have it. I prefer jam if I'm going to be honest.
Jamming donuts, yeah. The red one.
The red one.
You're not a fan of jam sandwich, Stu?
Nah. Can't do with that.
Jam
I've
or
never
toast?
had a jam sandwich.
I don't think so. It's got to be
Like you
meaty.
from Ashmer Park, that should be like a staple diet.
I was just thinking that's such an Ashford Park diet, jam sandwich.
Never had jam sandwich, never had a crisp sandwich. None of this silliness.
My favourite
Beef-
jam is
beef-
Space Jam, the movie.
Let me find one last question for us to end on, and this is where, right, we'll end on one from Luke Thompson. Would you rather? So I was thinking this is good. It's always going to be a good one if someone drops a would you rather into Twitter Corner. Would you rather stay in lockdown as it is, but Wolves win League and Cup double, or cancel lockdown and go back to normal? So I guess like COVID's never happened, but Wolves get relegated.
Staying locked in.
Yeah, I ain't getting relegated.
Staying locked down and win the cups.
Oops, are you going to be magnanimous in this, or
I'm going to be boring and say staying locked down because, yeah.
We're used to it now anyway.
Yeah,
exactly. I was going to say, you know what? I'm going to make it 5 for 5. We live with it now. It's the new normal. But, look, pandemics come and go, but trophies stay forever. So, and on that note, we're going to end today's podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back relatively soon covering the Arsenal game. Make sure you keep up with us on all of our social media. We're on, say, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure you check it out on our YouTube channel. We've got lots of fresh content coming out on there at the moment. Before we wrap up, just a quick, I guess, well done again to Kim in terms of the fundraising for the well in Wolverhampton. I think it's just short of £10,000 that's been raised by Wolves fans at the moment.
Yes, thanks to your guys' can't even speak now. Your guys' generosity. So yeah, really pleased with how it's gone, and thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly worthwhile cause with everything going on at the moment, especially with Christmas looming around the corner for everyone. I think everyone deserves to not be going hungry at any sort of period of time, let alone one of a global pandemic and with Christmas around the corner. So it's fantastic work that's been done by the Football Wolves community yet again. Big thank you to our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media. You got any website needs or marketing stuff, go make sure you go check them out at pixelyetimedia.com. And until next time, it's goodbye from Hoops.
Bye.
It's goodbye from Dan. Hi, Dan. I feel. Did anyone else feel suspense then? Just say.
I'm just so deflated after this episode of listening to you lot just downtrodden our god of a manager, Nuno Espirito Santo. I just don't know which way to turn. I'm rapidly falling out of loving football. I really am. Sometimes I just wonder why I even bother anymore.
Well, you shouldn't go to games then, should you? It's goodbye from Stu.
Feliz Navidad.
It's goodbye from Kim.
Bye.
And it's goodbye from me. See you next time.